everyone. Welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm Jason, your host, and as always, I'm here with my amazing co-host, Julia. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Jason. Hello to all our amazing listeners. We're so happy to have you with us today. This episode is going to be a very important one.
Absolutely. Today, we are talking about something that every English learner faces, but not everyone likes it. Yes, we're talking about mistakes, and more importantly, how mistakes are actually a part of learning.
That's right. Many people feel scared or shy when they make mistakes while speaking English. Some even stop trying because they're afraid of being wrong. But guess what? Making mistakes is a natural and necessary step in learning any new skill, especially a language.
Exactly. Julia, I always tell my students this: if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. Mistakes are not something to be ashamed of. They are signs that you are practicing, trying, and growing.
I love that, Jason. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about why mistakes happen, why they are good for you, and how you can use them to improve your English faster. We'll even share some fun stories where mistakes turned into great learning moments. I love that, Jason. And in today's episode, we are going to talk about why mistakes happen, why they are good for you, and how you can use them to improve your English faster. We'll even share some fun stories where mistakes turned into great learning moments.
So, whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, this episode will help you feel more confident when you speak English, even when you get things wrong. So stay with us. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced learner, this episode will help you feel more confident when you speak English, even when you get things wrong. So stay with us.
All right, let's get started. First, let's talk about why people are so afraid of making mistakes when they learn English.
So, Julia, let's dive into our first big topic today. Why do people fear making mistakes when learning English? I think this is something every learner struggles with at some point.
Absolutely, Jason. One of the biggest reasons is the fear of being judged. Many learners feel embarrassed when they make a mistake, especially if they're speaking in front of others. They worry people will laugh at them or think they're not smart.
Yes, and that fear of embarrassment can be very strong. I've had students tell me, "Jason, I know what I want to say, but I'm afraid I'll say it wrong." So, they stay silent instead of trying. But staying silent means you don't get the practice you need.
Exactly. Another reason is perfectionism. Some learners believe they need to speak perfectly before they can open their mouths. They think, if I can't say it perfectly, I won't say it at all. But the truth is, perfection comes after practice, not before.
That's a great point, Julia. Language is messy. Even native speakers make mistakes. Sometimes we forget words, mispronounce things, or use the wrong grammar, and it's normal. But learners often put extra pressure on themselves to be flawless.
And don't forget about past bad experiences. Some people have had teachers or friends who corrected them in a harsh way. Maybe someone laughed when they made a mistake, and that memory stuck with them. So now, they feel anxious about speaking up.
Yes, that's so true. Those negative experiences can really hurt confidence. But we're here to tell you those experiences don't define you. Making mistakes is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're learning something new.
Right. We also need to mention that in some cultures, making mistakes is seen as a shameful thing. People are taught from a young age that being wrong is bad. But in language learning, it's actually the opposite. Mistakes are a good thing.
Exactly. If you're learning English, you have to give yourself permission to be a beginner. You have to be okay with making mistakes, because that's how you grow. Remember, no one becomes fluent overnight.
So, to all our listeners out there, if you feel afraid of making mistakes, you're not alone. But we want you to know that fear should not stop you from trying. The more you practice, the less scary it becomes.
That's the key message. In fact, in our next part, we're going to share some real stories of learners who improved their English by making mistakes. These stories will show you how mistakes can actually be your best teacher.
Stay with us, you'll love these stories.
All right, Julia. Now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the show, real stories from learners who turned their mistakes into powerful learning moments.
Yes, I love this part too. You know, Jason, I remember one of my students, Maria. She was from Spain and was always very shy in class. One day, she wanted to say, "I'm very excited," but she accidentally said, "I'm very exited." She dropped the C. Everyone laughed a little because it sounded funny, but she laughed too.
Oh, I love that story. And what happened after?
Well, after that moment, Maria remembered forever how important pronunciation is. That little mistake made her focus on sounds more carefully. And guess what? By the end of the course, she became one of the most confident speakers in the class.
That's fantastic. I have a similar story. One of my students, Ahmed, from Egypt, was practicing a conversation with a friend. He wanted to say, "I want to improve my English," but he said, "I want to remove my English." His friend was confused for a second, but they both laughed.
"Oh no, remove my English. That's so funny."
Yes, but here's the thing, Ahmed never forgot the word improve after that. That small, funny mistake helped him remember it for life. It became a little story that stuck in his mind.
That's such a good example of how mistakes actually make learning stronger. When something goes wrong, your brain pays attention. You remember it because there's a feeling, maybe a little embarrassment, but also humor and learning.
Exactly. I tell my students, mistakes are sticky. They help information stick to your brain. You learn it more deeply. If you only read books and never speak, you won't get these memorable moments.
You know, Jason, even when I was learning French, I made so many silly mistakes. Once I wanted to ask for a fork in a restaurant, but I used the word for seal the animal. The waiter looked so confused, but we all laughed. I never forgot that moment.
That's hilarious, Julia. And see, you remember that mistake even now. It became part of your learning journey.
Exactly. So to our listeners, don't be afraid of making mistakes. They are natural. They happen to everyone, even us. And often they become the moments where you learn the most.
In fact, in the next section, we'll explain why mistakes actually help you learn faster. It's not just about being funny or memorable, there's a science behind it.
Stay tuned, everyone.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. So far, we've talked about why people fear mistakes and how real learners have turned mistakes into learning opportunities. Now, let's get into something really important, how mistakes actually help you learn faster.
Yes, Jason. Many learners don't realize that when you make a mistake, your brain is actually working harder. It's like an alarm goes off that says, "Wait a minute, something's not right here." And that makes you pay attention and remember the correct way next time.
Exactly, Julia. In fact, there's a concept called active learning. When you make a mistake and correct it, your brain is actively involved in fixing the problem. That active effort helps build stronger memory connections than just reading or listening passively.
That's a great point. It's like when you touch something hot, you remember not to touch it again. Mistakes in language work the same way. When you say a sentence wrong and get corrected, you are much more likely to remember the right way in the future.
Yes, and another important thing is that mistakes give you feedback. When you try to speak and make a mistake, you learn what you need to work on. Maybe it's grammar, pronunciation, or vocabulary. But if you never try, You don't know where you need improvement.
That's so true, Jason. Feedback is like a mirror, it shows you what's going on, and once you see your mistake, you have a chance to fix it. But you only get that feedback when you're willing to speak up and risk making a mistake.
Exactly. I always say, mistakes are a teacher. They show you the gap between what you know and what you need to learn. And every time you fix a mistake, you're filling that gap.
Jason, do you remember that study about language learners who made more mistakes in practice sessions but improved faster than those who were too careful?
Oh, yes. The study showed that the learners who weren't afraid of making mistakes learned to speak more fluently and confidently. Why? Because they were constantly getting real-time feedback, and their brains were adjusting.
That's why practice is so important. You can read all the grammar books in the world, but until you actually try to speak and make mistakes, you won't build real communication skills.
Exactly. Mistakes are like stepping stones. Each mistake you make and correct brings you closer to fluency. You fall, you get up, and every time you get a little better.
And here's something else. Making mistakes shows you're being brave. It means you're stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's where real learning happens.
I love that, Julia. So, to all our listeners, remember this: if you want to learn faster, make more mistakes. But don't just make them, learn from them. That's the key.
Exactly. And in the next part, we'll talk about some famous people who made big mistakes but used them to achieve success. These stories will inspire you to see mistakes in a new light.
Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. So far, we've learned that mistakes are a natural part of learning and can actually help you learn faster. Now, Julia, let's talk about some famous people who made mistakes and still succeeded.
Oh, I love this part, Jason. One of my favorite stories is about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. He failed over 1,000 times before he finally made a working light bulb. But when someone asked him about all those failures, do you know what he said?
Yes, he said, I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work. What a powerful mindset. He didn't see mistakes as failure, he saw them as steps toward success.
Exactly. Another example is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter series. She was rejected by 12 publishers before her book was finally accepted. She made mistakes in her writing, in her approach, but she kept improving. Today, she's one of the most successful authors in the world.
And you know, Julia, even in language learning, many famous people have struggled. For example, Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, said that his English was terrible when he started. He made so many mistakes while speaking, but he didn't give up. He practiced by talking to tourists and slowly improved his skills.
That's so inspiring. Another one is Albert Einstein. He didn't speak fluently until he was around 9 years old. Imagine that one of the greatest minds in history had trouble with language as a child. But he didn't let that stop him.
These stories show us that making mistakes is not the end of the road, it's part of the journey. Every mistake teaches you something. If these successful people had given up after their mistakes, the world would be very different today.
That's right. And for our listeners, remember this. Your mistakes are not failures. They are lessons. They are proof that you are trying, learning, and moving forward.
In the next section, we'll talk about how you can change your mindset about mistakes so that you see them as opportunities, not problems.
Stay tuned. You're going to love the tips we have for you.
Welcome back, everyone. So far, we've seen how even the most successful people made mistakes and learned from them. Now, Julia, let's talk about something very important. How can learners change their mindset about mistakes?
Great topic, Jason. The first step is to understand that mistakes are not a sign of failure, they are signs of effort. Every time you make a mistake, it means you are trying something new, and that's something to be proud of, not ashamed of.
Exactly, Julia. I always tell my students, if you're not making mistakes, you're staying in your comfort zone. But real growth happens outside of that comfort zone. So, change the way you look at mistakes, see them as progress, not problems.
One practical tip is to replace negative self-talk with positive affirmations. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm bad at English," say, "I'm learning and improving every day." This small change in words can make a big difference in how you feel about your mistakes.
That's a great tip. Another mindset shift is to think of mistakes as a normal part of communication. Even native speakers make grammar mistakes, forget words, or pronounce things wrong. It's human. So, why should learners expect themselves to be perfect?
Exactly. And here's another tip. Celebrate your mistakes. After every mistake, say to yourself, "Great, I learned something new." Turn it into a small win. This makes the learning process more fun and less stressful.
I love that, Julia. Also, it's important to focus on the message, not the mistake. The goal of language is to communicate, not to be perfect. If the person you're speaking with understands you, that's a success, even if you made a few mistakes along the way.
Absolutely. And another powerful technique is called fail forward. This means every mistake you make is a step forward, not backward. So instead of avoiding mistakes, you welcome them as part of your journey.
That's a fantastic mindset. Learners need to remember that every fluent speaker once struggled, once made mistakes, and once felt the same fears. But they kept going.
Yes, Jason. The secret is to be kind to yourself. Learning a language is not easy and it takes time, so give yourself permission to learn, grow, and yes, make mistakes.
In the next part, we'll share some practical tips on what to do when you make a mistake in real conversations. This will help you stay calm and keep going.
Stay with us, you're doing great.
All right, welcome back. Now that we've talked about changing your mindset about mistakes, it's time to get practical. Julia, let's give our listeners some simple steps they can follow when they make a mistake while speaking English.
Great idea, Jason. So the first and most important tip is don't panic. It's completely normal to make mistakes. Take a deep breath, smile, and stay calm. Most of the time, people won't even notice small mistakes unless you panic.
Exactly. And if you realize you've made a mistake, you can simply pause and correct yourself. For example, if you said, "He go to school every day," you can pause, smile, and say, "Oh, I mean, he goes to school every day." It shows confidence and self-awareness.
That's a great example. Another tip is ask for help if you're not sure. You can say, "Is that correct?" or "How do you say it properly?" Most people will be happy to help you. This turns a mistake into a learning moment.
Yes, and that also shows that you are open to learning, which people respect. Here's another useful tip. Keep going. Don't stop the conversation just because of one mistake. The main goal is communication, not perfection.
Exactly. It's like driving a car. If you take a wrong turn, you don't stop the car and walk home. You correct your path and keep driving. Language is the same. One wrong word doesn't mean you should stop speaking.
I love that analogy, Julia. Also, when you make a mistake, laugh it off if it's a funny one. Humor is a great way to stay relaxed. Remember Maria, who said exited instead of excited. She laughed and moved on, and it became a good memory.
Absolutely. Here's another practical technique. Repeat the correct version out loud a few times. For example, if you used the wrong tense, Say the correct sentence 2 or 3 times to practice. This helps your brain remember it better next time.
That's a solid strategy. And one last tip after the conversation. Write down the mistake and the correction in a notebook or on your phone. Review it later. This will help you avoid making the same mistake again.
So, to sum up, don't panic, stay calm. Pause and correct yourself. Ask for help if needed. Keep the conversation going. Laugh and learn from it. Repeat the correct version out loud. Write it down for later review.
Perfect summary, Julia. Remember, mistakes are small bumps on the road to fluency. If you know how to handle them, they can actually speed up your learning.
In the next part, we're going to do a fun role play where we'll show how to handle a mistake during a real conversation. It will be a great example for our listeners.
You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Now it's time for a fun role play. Julia and I are going to act out a simple conversation where a mistake happens. We'll show you how to handle it naturally and keep the conversation going.
Yes, this will be fun. All right, Jason, let's imagine we're 2 friends meeting at a cafe. You can start.
Hi, Julia. Long time no see. How are you doing?
Hi, Jason. I'm doing great, thanks. And you?
I'm good. Yesterday, I go to the park and saw a beautiful sunset.
Oh, you went to the park? That sounds lovely.
Oh, yes. I went to the park. Thanks for catching that.
No problem. It happens to all of us. So, did you take any pictures?
Yes, I took a few photos, but my phone's battery was low, so I could only take, how do you say it? Just a couple of pictures.
Yes, that's perfect. A couple of pictures is exactly right.
Great. I wasn't sure for a second there. Thanks, Julia.
Anytime, Jason. By the way, next weekend I'm planning to visit a museum. Would you like to join?
Sure, I would love to. And I'll make sure my phone is fully charged this time. See? That's how easy it can be to handle mistakes. I said go instead of went, but I didn't panic. Julia helped me, I corrected myself, and we kept the conversation going.
Exactly. And when you're not sure about a word or phrase, like Jason with couple of pictures, you can simply ask. It keeps the conversation flowing, and you learn in real time.
Mistakes are natural in conversations. What matters is how you respond to them. Stay calm, be friendly, and keep communicating.
Coming up next, we'll share some motivational advice to remind you why making mistakes is actually a sign of progress.
You're almost at the finish line. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Before we wrap up, Julia and I want to leave you with some encouragement. If you've been afraid of making mistakes while learning English, we want you to remember this. Mistakes show you're growing.
That's right. Every time you make a mistake, it means you're pushing yourself. You're trying to use new words, new grammar, and new ideas. That's brave. Staying safe and quiet won't help you grow, but trying and failing, that's real learning.
I always tell my students, mistakes are like footprints on the road to fluency. The more footprints you leave, the closer you are to your goal. Every mistake is proof that you're walking forward.
I love that, Jason. And remember, no one ever became fluent without making hundreds or even thousands of mistakes. Even native speakers made mistakes when they were kids. It's part of the learning journey.
Absolutely. So, instead of being afraid of mistakes, celebrate them. Every mistake you make is a sign that you're taking action. You're learning, you're practicing, and you're getting better.
And don't forget you are not alone. Every learner makes mistakes. The key is to keep going, keep speaking, and keep learning from them.
That's the secret to success. So, to all our listeners, be proud of your mistakes. They are stepping stones to your success.
Coming up next, we'll share our final advice and a quick summary of everything we've talked about today.
Don't go anywhere, we're almost there. And here we are, the final part of today's episode. Julia, it's been such a great conversation about mistakes and learning. Let's quickly remind our listeners of the key points.
Absolutely, Jason. First, remember that making mistakes is a natural and important part of learning English. Don't be afraid to speak, even if you make errors.
Right. We also talked about why people fear mistakes, fear of judgment, embarrassment, and perfectionism, but those fears can be changed.
Yes, and we shared inspiring stories from real learners and famous people who succeeded because they didn't give up after mistakes.
We also explained how mistakes help your brain learn faster by giving you feedback and forcing you to actively correct yourself.
And we gave practical tips on what to do when you make mistakes. Stay calm, correct yourself, ask for help, keep going, and even laugh at the funny ones.
Plus, our role play showed how easy it is to handle mistakes in real conversations with kindness and confidence.
Finally, we encouraged you to see mistakes as proof that you're growing and making progress. They are not failures, they are stepping stones.
So, to everyone listening, keep practicing, keep speaking, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's the fastest way to improve your English.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope this episode helps you feel more confident and motivated in your English journey.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to the English Learning Podcast. And leave us a comment about your own experiences with mistakes.
We'd love to hear your stories. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.
Bye, everyone.